I first heard him scream at exactly 2:04 a.m. At first, I thought it was some desert animal, maybe a coyote or a mountain lion, letting out a call over the dusty expanse that surrounded my new house. But when I sat upright in bed, heart pounding like a war drum, I realized it was a man's voice. It wasn't a howl. It was a scream. Raw. Hoarse. Like his throat had been torn from hours of doing it. Worse yet, it sounded like he was screaming my name. Eric. I froze. The air in my room turned cold, even though the Arizona desert never really cooled off at night. I reached for the small pistol I kept under my nightstand and crept toward the window, holding my breath. I didn't pull the curtain aside. Not yet. I didn't want to see. I just needed to know, was I imagining things? Then came the second scream. Eric. I know you in there. The voice cracked. It was angry. But there was something else in it, grief, rage. It wasn't someone playing a prank. It wasn't a drunk guy who got the wrong house. No, this man knew me. Or thought he did. But here's the thing, I had just moved here 3 weeks ago. I didn't know a soul within 50 miles. I came out here to get away from people. No forwarding address. No social media. My name wasn't even listed on the deed. I used a trust, specifically to stay hidden. So how the hell did he know who I was? I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, pistol in hand, heart doing a marathon in my chest. Eventually, the screaming stopped. Just before dawn, I looked out the window. No one. No footprints in the gravel. Nothing disturbed. But I knew what I'd heard. I wasn't crazy. The next day, I checked my security cams. Nothing. Dead feed. All 4 cameras had gone static at exactly 2:03 a.m. And then they came back at 2:30 like nothing had happened. I reviewed the footage 6 times. Nothing. Just blackness for nearly 30 minutes. Like time skipped. I called the police. They sent a deputy, some kid who looked fresh out of high school, too cheerful to be carrying a badge and a Glock. He said all the usual things, probably just a drunk. Could be even a transient. Don't worry, sir, we'll increase patrols. He didn't take notes. Didn't even look me in the eye. That night, I stayed awake. At 2:04 a.m., he screamed again. Eric. It's time. I shouted back this time. Who are you? What do you want? No answer. Just ragged breathing. I ran to the window, yanked the curtain aside. Nothing. Empty desert. My floodlight flickered, then died. Then, out of nowhere, laughter. Sickening. Close. As if someone was right behind the glass, whispering a joke only he could understand. I didn't sleep again. I stayed armed, lights on, sweating through my sheets as the heat never let up, and neither did the fear. On the 3rd night, I installed a backup generator, hardwired the cameras to a separate battery, and waited. 2:04 a.m. The voice came again, but this time, it was quieter. Closer. Eric. I forgave you. But you still have to see it. I played the audio back 20 times the next morning. There was something in his tone. Like he was crying. Begging. But also, certain. As if I was supposed to understand something. I didn't. I dug out old emails, tried to see if anyone from my past could be found me. But I hadn't talked to anyone from my former life in years. Not since I left Boston. Not since what happened with my brother. God. My brother. He died 6 years ago. Car accident. Head-on collision with a drunk driver. It shattered our family. I hadn't been the same since. And I never forgave myself for the argument we had before he left the house that night. For not answering his last call. The night after I remembered all this, the fourth night, the man didn't scream. He whispered. Right under my window. Eric. I saw him. He is still alive. I didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. My back was flat against the bedroom wall, pistol aimed at the window, finger twitching on the trigger. That whisper close, deliberate, like he was speaking directly through the glass, froze my blood. He is still alive. No one knew about my brother. Not here. I hadn't spoken his name in years, hadn't said it out loud since the funeral. There was no reason, no possible way a stranger in the middle of a desert town could be known anything about him. I launched out the front door, flashlight and gun sweeping the night. Nothing. Just dust curling in the pale moonlight, the sound of cicadas and wind like static across the sand. No footprints again. I walked the perimeter of the house until dawn. Eyes wide, twitching at every rustle in the brush. Something was happening. Something I couldn't explain. I didn't call the police again. I didn't need another lecture about keeping the lights on and locking the doors. This was beyond trespassing. I started looking up town records, thinking maybe there was something about this area I didn't know. The property was old, built in the 50s. The town of Dry Hollow was technically unincorporated, off the maps until about 1992. That's when the federal government showed up, claiming land rights nearby for geological survey testing. The locals, what few of them were left, called it a curse. Dry Hollow doesn't hold water, one man told me at the diner. He laughed, then whispered, or memories. Then he just walked away. That night, I set out bait. An old cassette recorder playing a loop of my voice. I placed it by the window and angled the cameras directly at it. Then I waited, hiding just inside the kitchen. At 2:04 a.m., I heard footsteps crunch the gravel. Slow. Deliberate. Then a pause. And the whisper again, clearer this time. Eric, you have to come see him. He is waiting. In the dark. I waited until sunrise to check the cameras. And what I saw chilled me to the core. There was a figure. Human. Dressed in a tattered black coat, face hidden under a hood. But here's the thing, he never walked. He appeared in 3 different frames. In one, he was 15 feet from the window, in the next, he was directly in front of the recorder. And then he vanished. No movement. No footsteps. Just 3 static images, like he glitched in and out of time. I played it over and over. Frame by frame. Each time I saw his outline, I felt sick. There was something unnatural about the way he stood. Bent. Twisted slightly, like his joints didn't match up with how a human body was supposed to be built. That day, I drove out of town. 50 miles east to the next city with decent internet. I needed answers. I found a forum. echotown.gov, not government. Not real. But real enough for those who had seen what I'd seen. Stories of voices in the walls. Roads that led to nowhere. Doors in the desert that shouldn't exist. And a man always at 2:04 a.m. who whispered lost names. One user messaged me directly. Did your brother die in the dark? I didn't respond. I didn't have to. That night, I boarded up the windows and sat in the center of the living room, surrounded by salt lines and candles, every gun I owned loaded and ready. The clock ticked. 2:03 a.m. The candles blew out. And in that silence, I heard it. Not a whisper. Not a scream. A cry. Desperate. Familiar. Him. Eric, help me. Please. I'm cold. I'm still here. It was my brother's voice. I couldn't move. That voice, his voice wasn't coming from the recorder, or a speaker, or a dream. It was seeping through the walls. Through the floorboards. Like the house was speaking him into existence. I stepped back slowly, aiming the flashlight at every corner of the living room. The air felt thick, like breathing through soaked cotton. The salt line I'd poured was scattered now, blown apart by something unseen. Eric. It was louder this time. More human. More him. I swallowed the fear, forced myself toward the wall where the sound had echoed loudest. It was the west side of the house where Mom had kept her old sewing room. The one I hadn't gone in since moving back. I grabbed the crowbar and started tearing into the drywall. With every pull, the whispers grew louder. Urgent. Weeping. The kind of cries you hear in war zones or hospital corridors. The cries of someone trapped too long, begging for the end. Then I found it. Behind the wall, buried between insulation and rotted wood, was a steel hatch. It looked like it had been welded shut decades ago. And carved into the metal, in deep, frantic scratches, were words that sent a chill into my spine: "Don't open until he forgets." I should be stopped. But I couldn't. Something in me, grief, guilt, desperation, pried the hatch open. The moment I did, a cold wind burst out from the hole. Not air. Not natural. Something that carried time with it. The lights flickered. Every photo in the house fell face down. And the crying stopped. Silence. Then the smell, like old rain, copper, and earth that hadn't been touched by light in centuries. I aimed my flashlight into the hole. It wasn't just a crawl space. It was a tunnel. Dug out by hand, leading down into blackness deeper than the desert should allow. And at the end of that tunnel, maybe 30 feet down, stood a figure. Barely visible. Gaunt. Head tilted inhumanly to the side. Watching me. Eric. I staggered back. It wasn't just my brother. It was what was left of him. Fused with the wall. With something else. Something ancient. He had no eyes anymore, just dark hollows that pulsed faintly, like candle flames. His mouth was open, stuck mid-scream, but the words came anyway. She fed me to it. Mom. She made the deal. I collapsed against the floor, unable to speak. She buried me alive, to save you. My vision blurred. She had told me he drowned. Told me she couldn't reach him in time. But that had never been true. Mom knew. She always knew. What the land wanted. What it demanded. A soul. A sacrifice. A son. The whispers rose again, hundreds of them now, overlapping, fighting to be heard. The walls shook. Paint peeled. And the voice, my brother's voice, screamed one last time, "Close the door, Eric. Close it before it remembers you." I slammed the hatch shut. Bolted it. Nailed it. Burned sage. Everything I could think of. And then I left. I don't live there anymore. The house still stands, but no one's bought it. No one ever will. Sometimes at night, even miles away, I hear the voice again faint, on the wind. Eric. But I never answer. Because I know if I open that door again I want he come back. Just like he didn't he.